Now we will have a brief discussion on structuralism. For the sake of easy handling, the discussion is divided into a few sections, and this is the first installment. There are two ways to understand structuralism. Maybe there are more, but we will confine ourselves to two so that things will be feasible and manageable. We can tentatively call them 1. Functional and 2. Historical. We will discuss the functional method in this presentation. In functional method, we learn it by doing it. So we choose the object of analysis. It can be a poem, a movie, eating habits of a community, or a social institution. You can bring anything into the purview of structuralism. Okay, then we apply the tools and techniques of structuralism to make sense of it, to understand it, to see it in a new light, to gain new insights into it. In this approach, we are not bothered about the antecedents, origins, seminal works, evolutionary trajectory, stops and ruptures of structuralism. That's why we call this approach functional. It is true that we can completely do away with information in this approach too. Without getting the basic bearings, we cannot use or apply it. But here, information is carefully filtered and kept minimal. Only those ideas which help us actually apply structuralism are discussed. Let us consider two works in this approach. This is the first one, you can see it here. It is named Literary Theories, a Case Study in Critical Performance. In it, you can find a story titled Snowed Up. And now, this story is read using structuralism, post-structuralist narratology, psychoanalysis, feminism, Marxism, and new historicism. Our concern is structuralism, right? In the section, you can get a clear and crisp introduction to the basic tenets of structuralism as the reading progresses. So you learn by performing, you learn by applying structuralism. So there are so many readings, some 6 or 7. Such an approach raises a crucial, perhaps disturbing question. Is there a primary and stable meaning which exists free from all these readings and interpretations? Well, we wish there was one. Unfortunately, it's unlikely. Please refer to the presentation on critical appreciation for a short discussion on this aspect. And now we are coming to the second work, which uses structuralism functionally as a set of tools and techniques. It has nothing to do with literature. It's about caste in India. The subtitle of the work is The Caste System and Its Implications. It was originally published in 1966. The greatest attraction of this book is that you needn't read a story because caste is a part of our day-to-day lives. It is something we live with and within. Of course, caste is a social institution, but its power is so pervasive and persisting. Often we are unable to explain this. So caste is very familiar to us through our own direct experiences and confrontations. We have enjoyed its privileges or experienced its ability to push us to margins. As we know, caste is a confusing subject. Just think about Kerala. How many castes are there? How do we explain the evolution of castes? What are the factors which determine the relative superiority or inferiority of a caste? Does the status of a caste change over time? Such questions can be answered in a number of ways. They have been answered historically and theologically. Some people say that castes are ossified occupational groups. According to some others, castes were originally classes which later became rigid. And there are people who believe that a person is born into a low caste because of his evil deeds in his previous birth. A caste has been interpreted as a custom, Some people see caste as the Indian version of race in the USA and class in the United Kingdom. But Dumont follows an approach that can be called structuralist. Let us examine a few quotations from his book. This is the first one. We will read it. If the element cannot be defined, then let us try to define the system. And what do we mean? What do we understand from this? Here, element is an individual caste. It can be understood only as part of a larger system made up of other castes. Now, suppose a person who belongs to a respectable caste goes to a place without caste. Is he going to get the kind of respect he got in his native place? No. No, because in the new place he is outside the system. Okay, so one element achieves meaning and effectiveness only within a system. That is why system becomes more important than element. Moreover, without understanding the system, the element cannot be understood or defined. And now, what is a system? It is abstract. You cannot see it. You cannot feel it. It can roughly be described as the sum total, the conglomeration of ideas and beliefs behind differentiation. Here, differentiation on the basis of castes. This is the second quotation. Taken overall, our object, that is caste, appears like an iceberg. Only one part, the easier to describe, emerges into the light of consciousness. Yet it is of a piece with another part, more obscure, but whose presence we know how to detect. The image of the iceberg is very interesting and effective. As we know, only 1/5 or 1/6, I am not sure, of an iceberg is visible above the water level. The rest is underwater. But if you do not know this scientific principle, we are sure to think that an iceberg is something that floats on water. It is an independent mass of frozen water. Similar is the case of caste. It has got some physical and visible manifestations which are easy to identify and describe. Okay, just imagine a person, again from the same respectable class, from the same respectable caste, who believes that the proximity of a low caste man pollutes him, destroys his purity. This belief is just the tip of the iceberg. It is a manifestation of a whole network of beliefs and ideas. As we said in the last slide, we cannot see this network, but we can experience its tip. It is its manifestation. Okay. Things change if one considers the principles whereby the castes are ranked in a more or less exact order. Underlying this order is found a system of oppositions, a structure. We cannot make sense of the ways in which castes are born and valued. But if we find the underlying grammar, the rest is easy. Okay, just think about a language. How do we learn a language? Do we learn the words or its structure? It is a structure. Learning a language is all about mastering its grammar to understand its structure. Once we get its grammar, the rest is easy. So it's a case of caste. We cannot meaningfully understand caste if we keep on examining individual caste groups. What we need is an explanation which covers everything. A central explanation, a structural explanation. He continues to describe caste as a system of ideas and values, a formal, comprehensible, rational system. So caste is not as chaotic as it appears at first. If we carefully go about the business, we can identify the invisible structures which have a logic of their own. That is why it is described as both comprehensible, understandable, and as rational. So, in short, in a caste system, hierarchy is the most important and is manifested in the separation between the pure and the impure. So we have got two key terms, pure and impure. These are the principles which which determine the whole edifice of caste. Actually, this is a method, it's a widely accepted method in structuralism to identify such dichotomies, such binary opposites. Personally, I don't think a structuralist approach is enough to understand and explain the intricacies of caste. But still, it's an interesting way of looking at things, especially in the context of structuralism, which we have got to study. In the next part of the presentation, we will discuss all these ideas again, but using examples from linguistics. Okay. We will begin with a thinker who lived in the 17th and 18th centuries.